Hey everyone, welcome to week 64. Today is Monday. Today is day one of our new week, which means new theme. And the theme for this week is going to be color pencil portraits. So let's see how we do. Okay, let's get started. This is Monday. This is going to be our first day of our new week, which means new theme. And the theme for this week is going to be color pencil portraits. And I always enjoy doing these somewhat formal weeks after weeks that have been pushing me in very different directions. I think falling back onto more formal qualities can be refreshing in a way. So when I say refreshing, I mean that it kind of makes you go back to very basic tools, to very basic notions that you have of drawing and painting. And for this week, we're going to concentrate on drawing. Now, when I say drawing, I don't want to have you guys think that the only reason I'm referring to drawing is because we're using tools that we usually associate with drawing practice. I feel that drawing, and we've talked about this before, is something that goes beyond our tools. I don't think the idea of drawing, the broader idea of drawing, has anything to do with a tool that lets you express yourself through very thin mark making. That's what we've associated with drawing for many, many years now. We think that line work, we think that a very thin mark is compatible with the definition of drawing. And when you look at the history of drawing, that may be the way in which drawing has been depicted as for many, many years, for centuries. But that doesn't mean that there is a bigger definition of drawing that can permeate, for example, in my case, the act of painting. I've always been very aware how drawing can be something that I can identify, even though it would be hard to grasp or hard to define, or even hard to quantify, within a very loose painting. I've always been aware of how that idea of drawing, that drive of drawing, is exhibited in moments in my painting. The thing is, sometimes it gets sort of entangled with ideas of painting, and many times those two ideas are so tightly woven together that it's very hard to separate them. It's really tough to say, okay, this is a moment of drawing, while that is a moment of painting. So even if it sounds weird, I know that within my own work, I can identify when I have, for example, drawing problems, or when I think that drawing aided me in producing a good painting, even though I wouldn't quite be able to tell you this is what I'm referring to. Like, this exactly is the moment where drawing is taking shape, where drawing is being materialized, where this idea of drawing is physically present and you can see it there, you can grasp it, you can quantify it here. It can be measured in this moment of the painting. And I'm not talking about very obvious ideas, because if we associate line work and delicate mark making with an instance of a painting where that's what's evidenced, then it would be pretty easy. We go back to square one. We go back to saying, okay, drawing is equal to line work. But again, I think it's broader. I think it has to do with the organization of shapes, with commitment, with decision making, with searching, many times errors, many times doubt. Plays a huge role in drawing. And those things are not quite as easily understandable, or you can't visualize them as easily as when I say line work, as when I describe to you a drawing as this expression that's achieved by a tool that lets you depict a thin, dark line. Even though this week we're going to use drawing tools that are traditionally considered as drawing tools, I could tell you right now that there's going to be aspects within these drawings that are very present at the moment that I paint. Even if the painting that I do is super loose and super expressive. I could be trying to put down bold brushstrokes. I could be avoiding doing details. So I'm speaking about the broader sense of form, the wholeness of form. And even there, even at those bigger moments, there is, of course, a sense of drawing that's very much so present. Now, does that mean that I'm able to exercise the same qualities when I do a broad expressive painting with big brushes compared to these sharp drawing tools that are color pencils? Am I able to access the same things? I don't think so. I think it's closer to working out, where you're going to be focusing on a different set of muscles. So it is going to be a workout, but sometimes you want to work one set of muscles and you don't want to overwork them. You don't want fatigue. You don't want your muscles to get used to doing the same repetitive work. You want to mix it up so that you keep your body kind of in shape. I'm speaking like I'm a CrossFit instructor, and no, I'm built like a bag of milk. So this is me speaking from years ago. This is past to me when my body was a temple. But if we're going to keep this metaphor going, my leg day, which I would always skip, is perspective. So perspective equals leg day. If we can take anything from today's video, it's that. Anyways, we're going to start with a very analogous portrait of my mother, very stylized. I think that throughout this week, while I'm going to try to be sensitive, I'm also going to try to be somewhat stylized. And what I mean by that is that I am going to look at shapes and I'm going to surrender to the way in which I perceive shapes. And that means that many times I'm going to sacrifice a lot of structure and I'm going to leave behind the order of things. There's going to be a lot of moments within my drawing where I have to ask myself, do I want to keep a very naturalist, very structured view of how things are, or do I want to accept this impulse that I feel when I perceive things where things are magnified? I think that when I pay close attention to the manner in which I observe things and to the impact that they have on me when I'm observing them, usually what happens is that I let myself go, and this could be a good or a bad thing. You know, if not understood well, I think it can be something that eventually will escape me and I'm not going to be able to control it. Control it in the sense of understanding it, not control it in the sense of imposing myself onto it. I do feel that it's important that you surrender yourself, that you give in, like I said. And I feel it is important because we need to explore those moments within our practice. If we don't give in, if every time we stray from the path that we've chosen and we interpret every single little deviation from that path as weakness, if we understand it as us just wasting our time or fooling around or doing something dumb or stupid, or we protect ourselves just saying, oh, this is just a small little exercise, but it doesn't matter, and we subtract the relevance from it in order for us to feel comfortable with giving ourselves, with granting ourselves the right to explore these different venues, then those opportunities are going to be, I wouldn't say wasted, but certainly their potential is going to be lessened by us thinking that they are going to be lesser images. So for me, it is very important to be, if you want, like capricious in that sense, where I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to have a prejudice against, whatever I'm going to do, because I feel that in order to fully give in order to fully experience all the good things that can be extracted from an exercise where you're engaging in the potential discovery of new possibilities, again, within our practice. So when I say I'm going to let myself act on a whim, I'm going to put my guard down and accept that perhaps the way I perceive things is very different from the expectations that I have of my own work. And this is something that's really amazing, because if I could describe to you the painter that many times I wish I could be, I think it's very different from the human being that I can sensibly identify when I do self-acknowledgement and self-recognition. When I look at myself and I look at what shapes the way in which I see things and what things move me and what drives me and what excites me about looking at nature, sometimes those things are a little bit different from the idea of the painter that I thought I was going to become. I thought I was going to be, for the longest time, a far more structured artist. When I look at the fundamentals of what I love, I always go back to naturalist painting, to a very firm academic background, which I don't really have. I don't have that background. but I always wanted that sense of structure. And I think that's why very strong naturalist sculpture has always moved me. Always moved me. It's almost like that's what I think my core should feel like. That's where I would love to start constructing the idea of the artist that I wish I could be. So in my mind, I think that I would love to be one of those very fundamentally strong artists. But when I look at myself, not what I wish I could be, but what I am, what I actually am, when I look at myself, I'm always drawn towards a ton of expressive things, towards instances of drawing and painting, sculpture, where a ton of sacrifices are made in order to be able to fully express what, the artist intended to express, what they wanted to say. And when I let myself go of the expectations I have or had for myself as an artist, and I just say, I'm only going to be what I'm supposed to be, I can only be the artist that I can be, that's when I realized that, I'm far, far more expressive than I think I am. And whenever I look at things, whenever I observe things, and whenever I measure, if you can do so, but whenever I measure things that move me, it's always about pushing distortion, pushing gesture. It's always about sacrifices in terms of how we understand space or the way we relate to space. It's always about pushing light, or in my case, pushing grayness. It's always about pushing form, the sense of form, where form feels structured and solid, but also where form is weak and malleable. I love those things. I love understanding the essence of something and then pushing the very makeup of that thing. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love to give myself the chance to explore those things. The thing is, again, when I give myself the chance to do so, I sometimes have this feeling, and it's not cool, but I punish myself because I feel like, okay, maybe you're having way too much of a good time doing this. This is so much fun that it doesn't feel like art. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but maybe people can understand what I'm saying. It's almost like art is supposed to feel more serious, and it's supposed to feel more educated. And that's why, last week I was saying when I painted Ernie that this is not about sophistication. Art is not about being sophisticated. I think that art is about just giving into who you are and sharing with other people this idea of who you are, socializing the fact that you understand who you are, or that you're searching for who you are, that you're attempting to understand, what makes you, you. I think that that's what's most exciting. And if that path leads you to Ernie, then it led you to Ernie. And you have to show that. Ernie is just another brick in this road that has to speak about, this journey you've been in. And I think that that was amazing. So I have to teach myself, and this sounds kind of strange, but I think that I still have to teach myself how to not feel that there are lesser drawings or that there are lesser paintings, or that some subject matter is considered as more dignified and other is considered as laughable. I don't think those things are true. So whenever I'm at my loosest, whenever I just let myself push, be it distortion or the absence of structure or the irregular nature of the relationship between a figure and space or the reinterpretation of value relationships, whenever I let myself do those things, I always have to remind myself, this is you. This is very much so you. This is not like a caricature of you. This is not you making fun of who you are. This is you exploring what's deep in your core. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if exploring those things means that you're going to inherently sacrifice some of the expectations that you had for yourself as an artist. In my case, again, it's about leaving behind that disciplined idea of an artist that I thought I was going to be. And the idea of a painter specifically, where I thought I was going to be doing these, massive, colossal paintings. That question that people ask, like, what are you going to leave behind? Like, what's your legacy? This concept of legacy is associated with bigness, with a huge production of work. I don't know if I feel comfortable with, even asking this idea, this concept of legacy, with feeling that there has to be this golden trail that we leave behind. I don't know. I think we can still be good in this world, and our life can still have value, and we can live a life worth living, even if there's not this visible trail for all to see that we leave behind that can be proudly exhibited. I don't know. I think that that's not the point. I think that the origin of those paintings or drawings can be small. You know, you can start by doing something very, very simple. And through the relationship that you establish with this very simple act, you can start to understand yourself. So I think that this week I have very simple tools because there's nothing weird about making a color pencil drawing. At least I don't think in the way that I approach color pencil drawings. I don't think I use the full potential that they have as expressive drawing tools. I think that I only explore like a small little aspect of it that lets me access and concentrate on the stylization of form, on pushing gesture, on distorting. And I really enjoy that. The fact that I can have a tool that lets me focus in on those things, it's really, really nice for me. And it's very small. Again, this is a tiny little aspect of drawing, but it's one that I want to give myself the chance to explore in order to make the most important muscle, quote unquote, in my body, which is my brain, just to help it understand areas that I was not blind to, but that sometimes I forget, or that sometimes I don't pay enough attention to, even though I recognize them and I understand them to be as essential to the sensible being that I am. So like I was saying, today is an analogous drawing of my mother. Analogous meaning that I'm using colors that are very close to each other, using hues that are very close to each other in the color wheel, which means that there's going to be harmony even if I try to be super expressive. In terms of color, I won't be able to mess this up. And because this is the first drawing that I do, I want to be not overly stylized, but I want to embrace the fact that there is a translation to drawing taking place, that it's not just about my mother, that it is also a drawing exercise taking place. And I think that the fact that I'm letting myself just explore those gestures and explore those shapes and push those shapes, and maybe that's going to be a motif that repeats itself during the week, but the fact that I understand this clean, empty contour holding together what is happening within this pseudo structure of this portrait is something that I'm super interested in. It's almost like you're trying to build something strong for materials that are very, very fragile. And the only way I can make those things work is by doubling down on this idea of leaning into mannerism. Now, that doesn't mean that I couldn't have pushed, this drawing a lot more. Today it was about setting some ground rules and going back to these drawing tools that I have kinship with, but that they become a little dormant when I concentrate on my painting tools, on working with broad brushes and big gestures in paint. So I think that these transitions, even though they seem abrupt, are very important to just keep us healthy and always working towards this idea of being an integral artist. So that's going to be it for today. I think that's a good intro into what we want to get from drawing this week. It's not just about, hey, I grabbed some color pencils and that's it. I'm just going to do color pencil drawings. No, it's about understanding the idea of drawing, understanding the role of drawing, and understanding the things that I think I can access more easily that have to do with the sensible part of who I am through those drawing tools. So I think that that's what's at the core of the exercise during this week. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow, Spanish Tuesdays, Martes de Español. Brush up on your Spanish. I'll see you guys. Love you. Bye.